Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 691. Battle between Venerables. Lu Qiu only wanted to kill Jun Mo Xie. With Mei Shuai-yen blocking, he became more angry. He didn't wait before he blinked again and lashed out with his full strength without any hesitation. The Venerables were astounded. All they wanted to do here was to say a few words and be bureaucratic. Asking Mei Shuai-yen to leave? That was nonsense. They had come so far. Why would they leave? All the Venerables wanted was for Mei Shuai-yen to disagree so they would have a proper reason to declare war on her. Venerables were venerables, not children. They had stature and couldn't lose face. How could they start fighting? They were only here to see how powerful the enemy was. Who knew that the conflict would escalate so quickly? Who knew that Lu Qiu suddenly would not be able to suppress his perverted nature and say those inappropriate words that harmed his reputation and caused the battle right now? What a troublemaker! Jun Xie peered coldly at the venerable of the defected saber, Chu Wuqing. He was from the same place as the pervert venerable. They were from the illusory blood sea. The merciful venerable, Jun Xie, and the venerable of the broken sword, Hua Fengwen, were from the elusive world of immortals. The heartless venerable, Du Ju, and the venerable of the edge of the world, Xiao Tianya, were from the supreme golden city. Even Hua Fengwen and Xiao Tianya were unsatisfied with Lu Qiu. They felt that he really was a shame to them. No matter how perverted you are, you're still a venerable. Why can't you suppress it? How many years have you not seen a woman? Looking at the snow and ice that the battle had flung up into the air, the other 5 venerables felt helpless. They couldn't disturb this kind of high-level combat. Unless they didn't want their face anymore and decided to go against Mei Shuai-yen as a group. But they had 2,000 top-ranked Xian beasts and beasts that had transformed. How could the 5 of them match their great numbers despite being superior on an individual level? Furthermore, Xian beasts were known for their toughness. Normal wounds were nothing to them. With all of them coming at the 6 of them, they definitely wouldn't be able to handle it. And right now, the Beast Kings were closing in and all of them looked eager to battle. If Jun Mo Xie was to suddenly call for them, there would definitely be a tsunami of beasts. Then suddenly, with a slapping sound, Mei Shuai-yan's body drifted down. She grabbed onto Jun Mo Xie and the both of them retreated back. Hong! The hurricane mixed with ice rotated faster until it finally bursted. With a snort, a man's body was flung away from the center of the hurricane. As he landed, there was a huge sound as icy mud was thrown up into the air. Lu Qiu's body suddenly emerged from all the dust. His face was menacing. On his right chest were 3 red palm-shaped marks. As the cold wind blew, 3 pieces of cloth in the shape of the palm could be seen drifting around like B***terfly. Lu Qiu's face was tomato red. He looked like he could turn into a cannibal anytime. He yelled in frustration again as his body zoomed over like a flash of lightning. With a single engagement, Mei Shuai-yen still looked elegant without any stain on her white clothes. But Lu Qiu looked very pathetic. It was very clear that the pervert venerable Lu Qiu was overwhelmed. Perhaps he already had some internal injury. Lu Qiu! Stop it! Do you still want your face? Chu Wuqing yelled at him, but it was met with deaf ears. Lu Qiu was still dashing for Mei Shuai-yen. He lost an encounter before so many people. He had to win it back. He was insulted by Jun Mo Xie, then beaten up by Mei Shuai-yen. He was a venerable. How could he let it go at this point of time? If he did, how was he going to secure his stature as a top expert? Looking at the ugly face heading for her, Mei Shuayan was calm as usual except for her cold smile. She formed a cross with her palms and made a gesture that looked like an orchid slowly blooming. Suddenly, the air seemed to become viscous. Wind stopped blowing and the clouds were frozen to their spot. Even the falling muddy snow dust was hanging in midair. Mei Shuayan's eyes revealed her intention to kill. I didn't kill you because of your 5 comrades. But you are still trying to engage me. You don't even have an idea of what should be done at the right time. What if you're a venerable? Why can't I kill one? Anyone who tries to hurt Mo Xie will die. Seeing what was happening, Chu Wuqing was terrified. He used all his Xian Qi to propel himself forward at maximum speed. There was a flash between his arms as he produced his saber. He was trying to use his Xian Qi to break through Mei Shuayan's blockage of free space to save Lu Qiu. He didn't forget to yell, "Venerable Mei, mercy!" But it was too late. Mei Shuayan coldly said, "The world cage." The zooming figure of Lu Qiu was caught in midair. He couldn't even budge anymore. It was like he was being sandwiched by the heaven and the earth. Although Lu Qiu had a despicable character, he had a high Xian cultivation. He was now on the 2nd tier of venerable. But by now, Mei Shuayan had reached the 3rd. So her world cage could only be evaded by those equal or higher than the 3rd tier of venerable. It was a completely different world cage than the one she had used in Tian Fa Forest. Even Lu Qiu couldn't escape. The sudden occurrence caught Lu Qiu by surprise. He felt that his body was no longer under his control. He was like a fish in a pond that was completely frozen in a split of a second. He had lost his freedom. Immediately, Mei Shuayan shot up into the air. She extended her palms and the sound of numerous blows followed. She hit out 30 times in that short period of contact. And all of them landed solidly on Lu Qiu's body. If Mei Shuayan wasn't concerned about the incoming Chu Wuqing, Lu Qiu would have received close to 1,000 blows. Lu Qiu's body rolled down like a rubber ball. As he fell down in air, he was like a withered leaf, or perhaps even an apple that was being knocked down by a strong gust of wind. Simultaneously, Mei Shuayan's body turned around in midair as she wielded her sleeves backward. With her stunning body shape, she was like a goddess performing a sacred dance. Her white sleeves were like the returning snow blown back by wind, but their speed matched that of lightning. They collided head-on with Chu Wuqing's defected saber. Or rather, the brilliant flash of the saber. Until now, the defected saber that garnered Chu Wuqing so much fame had yet to reveal its actual blade. Or more accurately, it was there all the time, but everyone's attention was drawn by the brilliant flash of the it. There was no tricks or fake movements. It was a true head-on collision. Boom! Mei Shuayan's world cage finally shattered under the immense pressure. Mei Shuayan's sleeves, which were filled with the purest Xian Qi, didn't rupture at all as it contacted with the flash. Her body dropped back down, forming a beautiful trajectory. The next moment, she was already beside Jun Mo Xie, and her elegance and grace only multiplied. It was as if she had a refreshing stroll in the gardens. Chu Wuqing flipped backward to land. He stumbled slightly before finally gaining back his balance. He was now barehanded again and the glittering saber was nowhere to be found. No one saw what it really looked like. Chu Wuqing looked at Mei Shuayan in awe. The 3rd tier? Congratulations, Venerable Mei. Although he was verbally congratulating, His expression was a complicated mess of envy and unwilling. The other venerables in the back were also left in awe by his words. Third tier of venerable. It was a stark difference compared to the first and second tier. No wonder she wasn't afraid of facing the 6 of them. There were 3 tier 1s and 3 tier 2s among them. Before Mei Shuai-Yan's recent breakthrough, it would have been easy to deal with her if the 6 of them combined forces. Even if she was a higher rank in the second tier than all of them, and despite her bodily build as a Xian beast, they were still stronger. But now, it was a completely different story. With her higher tier, compounded by her unique techniques and amazing speed, she could finish them off one by one. The 6 of them planned to show off their prowess to pressure the enemy, find an appropriate reason to declare war, and observe the true strength of their foe. They did the final job, but they obviously failed the first. They were being pressured in return. There was a booming sound in the distance, signaling that Lu Qiu's body had reached the ground. His body created a crater, sending bits of rock in the air. Again, Lu Qiu emerged from the dust. But now he was staggering, and his ugly face was even scarier. Thick blood oozed down the corner of this mouth. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 692. Jun Mo Xie's Retaliation. Lu Qiu seemed to want to say something, but blood flowed out faster as he opened his mouth. He knew it wasn't time, so he closed his mouth tightly and used Xian Qi to help with circulation. He then closed his eyes, disregarding all the Xian beasts around him, and began resting. He knew that his injury could be fatal and he had no time to lose. Mei Shuai-Yan was very fierce this time. Although she had been conservative due to Chu Wuqing, Lu Qiu still couldn't withstand it. Everyone was shocked. The blood Lu Qiu was spitting out was fresh. It was blood from internal organs. It was the end for Lu Qiu. Everyone became clearly aware that even if he managed to survive, his cultivation would be cut down to 80%. Venerable Mei, that was merciless. With only one glance at Lu Qiu, Chu Wuqing suddenly turned back his head to face Mei Shuai-Yan. His eyes showed his fury. Merciless? No. Jun Mo Xie smiled. May I ask what you are up to, being gathered here? I'm guessing you aren't here to enjoy the snowy scenery. Just make it clear what you want to do. Stop acting like you're the victim. You're a venerable. Why would you say something like this? It's so laughable. Lu Qiu deserved this. That makes sense. It was indeed my mistake. Chu Wuqing was stunned as he looked at Jun Mo Xie with some appreciation. I'm sure you have a good understanding of the rule of the jungle. But hear me out. He paused and said word by word. When you enter the competitive world, you can't act like yourself anymore. There are some things that you must do, but you still have to find a reason for it. No matter whether it makes sense, there must be one. Of course I know and I agree. Jun Mo Xie smiled indifferently. He suddenly pointed his finger and said murderously. So I have a reason to kill him. He was pointing at Lu Qiu. Let me ask you, will you let someone who has explicitly coveted your wife go? Jun Mo Xie laughed coldly. That's your reason to kill him? Sure. Chu Wuqing smiled heartlessly. But we also have a reason to protect him. We come and go together. He looked at Jun Mo Xie with a mild but detectable contempt. Also, shouldn't you as a man deal with this problem yourself? What are you doing all the time? Hiding behind your wife? You can't even deal with him yourself. Let's end this today. We will settle everything in the Silver City tomorrow. Yes. You're right. But I didn't plan to hide behind my wife. I will kill him myself as retaliation. As for whether I can do it, haha. Jun Mo Xie laughed loudly, and the heavy bloodthirst that radiated out disappeared in an instant. Immediately, his body began to fade. The eerie scene caught the venerables by surprise. They could quickly conceal their presence and intentions, but not as quickly and easily as Jun Mo Xie. His cultivation was indeed mysterious. Even with a closer look at Chu Wuqing, one would not see any difference. It appeared that he was standing there like a stone. But his body had actually moved in front of Lu Qiu. Although he despised Lu Qiu as well, he couldn't let others kill him when he was here. The other venerables stayed where they were. If all of them went, it would be shameful for them. One venerable was enough to deal with Jun Mo Xie. But Jun Mo Xie had completely disappeared. Mei Shuiyan was smiling faintly and showed no sign of helping out. She didn't look concerned at all. This made Chu Wuqing slightly anxious. Jun Mo Xie was completely gone before his eyes. He couldn't even detect Jun Mo Xie's existence with his venerable senses. It also amazed the other four venerables. They had never seen such peculiar technique. No matter how fast or tricky. A technique must leave traces. But there were none. Suddenly, a flash of gold zapped down. Chu Wuqing's right arm moved and the saber flash blocked the way of an incoming dagger, causing it to fall onto the ground with a loud clang. The dagger had a strange design. The blades were very thin and the curvature was smooth. It laid on the ground and flickered with cold light. Chu Wuqing was astounded. The dagger was small, but was sharper than anything he had seen. It even left a cut on the blade of his saber, which would not even bear a small crack even if it was beaten by some extremely heavy hammer. The dagger was heading for Lu Qiu and would definitely have cut Lu Qiu's throat if Chu Wuqing had not blocked it. Then again, the night sky was lit with a golden color. There were countless golden spots. Chu Wuqing hollered and the saber flash intensified until it resembled a rainbow. The rainbow flares shoved around before everyone's eyes as all the golden flashes landed on the blade before falling to the ground. Chu Wuqing had gathered all the golden flashes and hit them down. He was again empty-handed and still no one saw his saber. But he looked pale. Shit! The golden flashes were merely gold dust. It was a trick shot. Indeed it was. A deep and inhuman scream sounded behind him. It was Lu Qiu. Jun Mo Xie. Chu Wuqing was ignited. He didn't even turn his head and he began brandishing his sword rapidly, covering the two of them in numerous circles of saber flash as his body turned around and around as fast like lightning. There was no escape or anywhere to hide. Although he couldn't see where Jun Mo Xie was, he knew that Jun Mo Xie couldn't be far as he had just attacked Lu Qiu. The saber technique was developed by Chu Wuqing during the previous war for seizing the heavens. The invaders were also very elusive. But of course, were no match for Jun Mo Xie. But no matter how elusive or peculiar, this move would definitely work. Chu Wuqing had developed this technique on the spot and immediately killed his foe with it in the past. Storm all around to shake the world. That was the name of the technique. With hundreds of years of refinement, it was more powerful than before. The blade winds hollered. Chu Wuqing had used his full strength. Jun Mo Xie was able to hurt Lu Qiu under such protection. It made Chu Wuqing treat him as a foe of equal strength. He was young, but he had formidable cultivation. Jun Mo Xie had used the yin-yang escape to vanish. Then, he shot out a dagger, which had become much sharper to the extent that it could even catch Chu Wuqing by surprise after he had refined with the power of gold in order to judge the situation. Next it was the gold dust. Jun Mo Xie took a piece of gold pellet from his pocket and crushed it into pieces with the power of gold before sprinkling them down. Seeing a similar golden flash would definitely induce a full blow from Chu Wuqing. He had to use his full strength because he was afraid that his saber would be damaged and that some would go past him and hurt Lu Qiu. In fact, with what Jun Mo Xie could do now, there was no way he could control so many daggers. If he really could, the power would be so strong that there was no way for Chu Wuqing to block. But of course, this was a secret known only to Jun Mo Xie. Chu Wuqing's reaction was exactly what Jun Mo Xie had expected. He then immediately used yin-yang escape again to get to Lu Qiu like a ghost. He remained invisible but kicked Lu Qiu very hard and without hesitation 13 times. And all of them landed accurately between Lu Qiu's crotch. "How dare you covet my wife? And even in front of me. I can't vent my anger if I don't turn you into a eunuch." 13 kicks and Jun Mo Xie immediately backed off. As for Lu Qiu, the thing between his crotch was completely crushed. By now, even if Lu Qiu could survive, he would have to change his title. He would no longer be the pervert venerable. How could he still be a pervert without that thing? Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 693. I won't let you die so easily. Jun Mo Xie was right. Chu Wuqing immediately responded with the most suitable technique for this situation. After his 13 kicks, Jun Mo Xie immediately retreated but only pulled back 2 meters before the saber flashes came from everywhere around him. Instantly, it felt like his body was being torn apart. He had no choice but to hide into the Hongjun Pagoda. Too bad. Nice technique, but I have a cheating machine. Do you have one? The flashes were so intense that it appeared to tear the air and soil into pieces as well. The giant glacial layers 10 meters away were sliced into pieces and tossed up. A region of dozens of square meters with Lu Qiu at the epicenter was left in great turmoil. Icy fog, tiny crystals of ice, and small pieces of rock were blasted into midair like a fountain. The blade left countless deep cuts on the ground concentrated together. In a width of a finger, there could be up to 3 cuts. But Chu Wuqing was very frustrated, as he had just unleashed his full force. But Jun Mo Xie had already returned to where Mei Shuiyan was and began saying something to her affectionately. He missed. The target was gone, but he couldn't end his blow immediately as it was initiated too suddenly in the first place. So he was like a monkey that was being toyed around, slicing and cutting at thin air as others watched. It was such an awkward feeling that he felt like he was about to vomit blood. And the man he was trying to protect was rolling around on the ground, hugging his crotch with a distorted face. As he rolled, the snow below was stained blood red with some yellow from the crushed organs. Lu Qiu's agonized screams no longer sounded like they could be made by a human. The other venerables were too flabbergasted. Although Lu Qiu was also a venerable and had an amazing cultivation, he was seriously injured from Venerable Mei's full blow and again received kicks to his weakest spot while he was trying to recover. There was no way he could survive. Even more surprising was the fact that Jun Mo Xie was able to sneak past a venerable with top vigilance to reach his target. Although Lu Qiu was now very weak and had no ways to resist, Jun Mo Xie was able to sneak in and out without showing any signs of unease. None of the 4 could do that. So they were absolutely astonished. They looked at Jun Mo Xie with more caution and killing intent. We can't leave him roaming the world. He's a danger as long as he's alive. If we don't kill him, we will soon become his prey. Even now, he is already a great threat, let alone letting him further develop. His teacher is being taken care of by the 9 saints, so there shouldn't be a problem in killing him now. The urge for them to kill grew. Mei Shuayan was quietly observing the situation and analyzing it in detail. Her keen senses were closely monitoring the 5 venerables. If they dared act rashly, she would move immediately. Feeling the dense killing intent in the eyes of the venerables, Jun Mo Xie kept calm, but was also planning to murder. No matter how arrogant the 3 holy lands were, they wouldn't have sent the 6 of them alone. No matter how strong their combined forces were, it would be puny compared to an army of 2,000 Xian beasts. So they brought more men with them. So their lone appearance was only intended to be a flexing of muscles and pressuring the foe. But now with one of them down. Perhaps. Jun Mo Xie suddenly had a crazy thought. If we can kill all 6 of them right now, that would be great. They obviously don't want me to live. So do I still have to bless them with longevity? Jun Mo Xie's body didn't move and his expression was cold. But the thought was flourishing in his mind like grass growing with nutrients from fertilizer. As long as he could kill the 6, their men who had lost their commanders would be like tigers that lost their claws and teeth. It would create a great advantage for their expedition to Blizzard Silver City. Jun Mo Xie, you are so young. But why are you so merciless? The venerables could no longer suppress their anger as they saw Lu Qiu rolling on the ground, moaning in pain. It was especially true for Chu Wuqing, who would have pounced upon Jun Mo Xie by now if it weren't for Mei Shuayan. No matter how despicable Lu Qiu was, he came with them. And being hit between the crotch was the most cruel and shameful thing to a man. Even if Lu Qiu could survive this time, he would forever be a joke for everyone on the continent. An eunuch at a venerable level. Hua Fengwen drifted over and quickly checked Lu Qiu's pulse. The result left him in awe. Chu Wuqing asked heavily with a blackened face. How is he? It's a very serious injury. 7 ribs and 20 more bones from his shoulders to his thighs were fractured by Venerable Mei's palms. But she showed mercy and didn't go for a kill. Nevertheless. What? His injury below was more serious. The force went straight for the internal organs, shattering them. That's not all. I was curious why Lu Qiu hadn't died from such serious injury yet. It's because there's a very strong life force in his broken meridians, ensuring that he will live for a few more days until all of it is gone. So now, he can only endure the torturing pain but can't die. Hua Fengwen suddenly turned around and screamed. Jun Mo Xie. Why did you add life force to torture him instead of killing him? You despicable villain. The other 4 venerables paled. They were no longer puzzled. But the answer was such atrocity. What Jun Mo Xie did ensured that someone whose organs completely failed could still live on. The life force would drive the failed organs to continue circulation and maintain functions for life, even keeping the victim fully conscious. It appeared very contradictory, but it was really a vicious way to kill. I want to kill you, but I won't let you die so easily. Even if your fate is sealed, I will let you experience all the pain in this world again. Why are you so unreasonable? Shouldn't you be thanking me? He would have died on the spot. But I kept him alive for him to leave his last words owing to the face of the 5 of you. I'm always so soft-hearted. See, I have thoroughly considered everything for you. Isn't it very humanitarian? And you still scold me like that. Aren't you ashamed? But it's okay. I don't mind. I'm used to doing good deeds. I've always prioritized the peace of the continent and the security of its people. I'm not so narrow-minded like you, so it's understandable that you don't appreciate what I do. Shameless. Hua Fengwen and Chu Wuqing quivered in anger. At the side, Lu Qiu suddenly yelled with a hoarse voice, as if his soul was also trembling in agony. Chu Wuqing. It interrupted Chu Wuqing's fury. He turned around with mixed feelings. Kill me. Lu Qiu stared at Jun Mo Xie with rancor as he begged at Chu Wuqing. Please, kill me. His dantian was shattered and he lost all his xian qi. He couldn't even kill himself to end the unbearable pain. Chu Wuqing's face twitched as he suddenly raised his right hand. A flash zapped through Lu Qiu's chest like lightning. Blood splashed. Thanks. Lu Qiu said weakly. His voice was soft, but he sounded relieved. He suddenly used all his strength to stare at Jun Mo Xie and shouted at him with exceptional resentment. Jun Mo Xie, wait for me tonight. I will turn into a hungry ghost to take your life. His voice echoed under the night sky, but he was dead. His ugly face retained its rancor as the pair of eyes remained wide open, fixed on Jun Mo Xie, and radiated a glare that was unique to the dead. The freezing breeze created a symphony with the echo, as if the entrance to the underworld were about to burst open with hungry ghosts flooding out. The curse created an eerie atmosphere that caused everyone to shiver. Dang! Do you have to scare me before you die? Hungry ghost? I'm so frightened. Jun Mo Xie cringed. Jun Mo Xie. You will pay the price of killing him. Chu Wuqing didn't look at Jun Mo Xie as he said coldly. On top of the snowy mountains in Blizzard's Silver City will be where you pay. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 694. I want to kill all of you. Why wait until then? So troublesome. Do you think you can say a few words and leave after blocking my way? You will have to pay the price for that as well. And I demand it now. Jun Mo Xie smiled and raised his right hand as he yelled. Kill them all. Spare none. This place will be their graveyard. He finally gave the order. The killing intent had been built up to such an extent that it could no longer fade away. You want to kill me? I will kill all of you first. Even if some of you escape, you will be badly disadvantaged in future battles. With ground-shaking hollers, 500 buff transformed kings charged in behind Big Bear's lead. The skies suddenly darkened more as hundreds of flying xian beasts circled above, waiting for orders to attack. Now the venerables realized that the xian beasts came from all directions. There wasn't even an escape route from above. When Jun Mo Xie had made up his mind to kill, he had already signaled to Jun Wuyi in the distance with an inconspicuous gesture. Jun Wuyi immediately understood and arranged the best formation in accordance to the standing positions of the 5 venerables. The Beast Kings received their orders and silently went to their designated places, and the venerables were soon circled. Their attention was being drawn onto Jun Mo Xie and Mei Shuiyan, so they were not aware of what happened around them. Moreover, they were very confident of their abilities and had not come up with a proper escape plan in the first place. How could they expect that the usually barbaric xian beasts had learned how to strategize? Surely, the xian beasts still didn't know how to strategize. But Jun Wuyi was an expert. He was easily one of the best in the world right now. The simple arrangement was very effective and the strategy was thorough. The aggression was also multiplied to the extreme by the arrangement. The Bear King, Big Bear, led 7 to battle the heartless Venerable, Du Ju. The Tiger King, Earthcracker, led 7 to deal with the merciful Venerable, Jun Xie. The Lion King, Careless Rock, led 7 to face the Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen. The Monkey King led 11 against the Venerable of the Defected Saber, Chu Wuqing. The Crane King, Long Crane, led 7 to engage the Venerable of the Edge of the World, Xiao Tianya. The Eagle King and the Condor King led the stronger flying Xian beasts in the air, and the Snake King, Green Hunter, commanded the other earth-born Xian beasts at the side. They would send a few to support whenever there was a need. Then the flying ones would shoot down like arrows, and the dashing ones would charge in like tanks. The extra support at the side was also very well organized, and their aid was effective. But each time, they wouldn't send out more than 20 in total, so as not to cause chaos on the field, and whenever they had provided enough support so that their comrades were no longer disadvantaged, they would pull back immediately. And the support groups that advanced would rotate around the various beasts. Jun Moxie was standing on the shoulder of a big, black bear, holding a small red flag in his hand. Whenever he waved the flag, the formation changed. With the experience of the Blood General, it was a piece of cake for him. Mei Shuayan stayed at the side to help manage the flow of the battle. She didn't join in herself. She only looked on with heightened vigilance. Suddenly, Jun Moxie waved the flag, and Green Hunter led a large group of Xian beasts into the battlefield like a tsunami. It effectively messed up the locations where the 5 venerables were being circled, separating the 5 of them into isolation. It was perfect. Now, they could no longer assist each other or join forces. Jun Moxie's flag waved again, and the Snake King gave more orders. Groups of beasts from each tribe formed a circle around where their kings were engaged before they rotated to trade blows. It was a ground-shaking battle. By now, the 5 venerables were facing tremendous difficulty to win. Jun Mo Xie, you shameless rascal! Do you dare to fight one-on-one? Jun Xie shouted angrily as he fought the tigers with his bare palms. He and Du Ju were now the most disadvantaged, as the Tiger King and the Bear King each had a very powerful weapon with them. Jun Xie was pierced on his shoulder as he was not careful, causing some rather serious-looking bleeding, hindering his battling efforts. Earthcracker laughed wildly and stopped attacking by himself. He just let the other tigers deal with Jun Xie. He looked from the side with the weapon in his hand, ready to pounce upon Jun Xie anytime. It was literally a tiger watching over its prey fiercely. With this, Jun Xie was put into an even worse situation. He had to divert his attention to be aware of the Tiger King. Shameless? My goodness! I finally made you say it. Do you know how much effort I've put in for you to say it? We have always called the 3 holy lands shameless, so I have always wondered when you would finally call me shameless. Now that I've finally heard it, I understand you. Being called shameless is so comforting. Although it's comforting, I'd still like to ask, aren't you more shameless to ask me to fight you alone when you are a venerable and I'm nothing? Jun Mo Xie laughed scornfully. Venerable Mei, you're also a venerable. How's it acceptable to win with numbers? Do you dare to face me alone? Hua Fengwen was able to leap up with his sword flashes, creating a bubble of protection around him after he had forced away the Lion King and the surrounding lions. However, Jun Moxie waved the flag, and 3 black eagles came down to attack with their claws. Hua Fengwen's breathing patterns didn't allow him to smoothly deal with the sudden attack, so he could only roughly block with great unease. There wasn't even time for him to gasp for air. Now he regretted leaping up. At least his breathing pattern was not disturbed when he battled on the ground. Fight alone? I'm sure you're mistaken. Isn't everyone battling you alone? Were you thinking of the 6 of you joining force against the 2 of us? Wait. The pervert venerable was killed by yourselves, so now you only have 5. But it's still the same. Jun Mo Xie smiled in surprise. Gosh. You guys are really merciless. You even killed your own comrade. Bullshit. How is this fight against me alone? Hua Fengwen was trying very hard to fend off the eagle's attacks. It was now a different trio of eagles. As his body began to fall back into the circle of lions, the Lion King was already prepared and advanced forward to give Hua Fengwen a blow on his back. Of course it is. You see, the Lion King is fighting you alone. So are each of the other lions. And you're still not satisfied. So you jumped up to fight with each eagle alone. Venerable Hua. Disgrace to you. How could you bully the majority as the minority? Jun Mo Xie suddenly looked furious. I can't even describe how shameless you are. Hua Fengwen felt his lungs were about to explode with anger. How shameless can Jun Mo Xie get? What was bothering the 5 venerables the most was that they couldn't produce a fatal blow even though they were so stuck. The reason was that neither Venerable Mei nor Jun Mo Xie had moved. They were the biggest threats on the field. If any one of them used their fatal ultimate techniques, intentionally or not, it would infuriate Mei Shuayan if Xian beasts died. By then, they would be in a very tragic circumstance in which they had to face against Mei Shuayan, who was superior to them, and a handful of other beasts while they had exhausted their Xian Qi temporarily due to their ultimate blow. That would be the most dangerous situation. But clearly dragging on would not work as well. They would be tired to death, while nothing had happened to the foe. So giving their full blow was the worst strategy. But dragging on was not much better. So, the 4 venerables blamed Jun Xie Bei in their mind right now. It's all your fault. Our men aren't fully gathered and you couldn't wait to come demonstrate our prowess. Well now, we are disadvantaged and there's even a fatality. How stupid. By now, it would even be useless to call for their men as they were not gathered yet. It would only be adding to the death toll. The opponent had a dominant army as well. Jun Mo Xie and Mei Shuayan still paid close attention to the happenings on the battleground so they could deal with any mishaps. They knew that venerables are strong. Being stuck was only the appearance. It was just that they hadn't come up with a proper strategy yet. With their power, it wasn't difficult for them to escape. Occurrences on the battlefield were always hard to predict due to the fast pace at which things played out. A Chinese idiom. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 695. Murderous Words. Jun Moxie calmly directed the army. The usually disordered teams of Xian beasts became a formidable war machine after only a few days under his command. The most impressive part was that Jun Moxie was able to stop the Xian beasts from attacking without coordination and divided them into groups and waves. He asked beasts of the same tribe to form a group. That way, they were familiar with each other's combat style and it would be able to maximize the joint force. Jun Moxie had been wondering about this strategy ever since he faced the Xian beasts in Tiannan. What if I could lead an army like this? He had thought. The Xian beasts had attacked by everyone charging onto the battlefield and fighting chaotically. Jun Moxie had seen their weakness then. Now he had the army under his command. He was able to fix the problem and multiply the strength of the army by many folds. The secret to becoming a successful general was always to find the best and most suitable strategy. And Jun Moxie was able to do it. So his army was fighting especially fiercely today, despite the rushed arrangement. Or else even if Jun Mo Xie had the idea to kill the venerables, they couldn't hold them up for long enough. But now, they were at least sort of stuck in some very tedious battle. No matter the result, Jun Moxie's strategy would be an exceptional success. It was flawless. Success was never luck. And success from luck couldn't last. It even left Mei Shuiyan, who was watching at the side, feeling ashamed. Jun Moxie was indeed a great talent in leading an army. The most boast-worthy part was that he was able to ensure that the normally rowdy beasts silently got into the positions most suited to encircling the 5 venerables. It really puzzled Mei Shuiyan. The beasts often got too excited when they were told that they were going into battle. With the commotion they usually caused, there was no way they could form the encirclement without being detected by the keen senses of a venerable. So Mei Shuiyan humbly asked after the battle, and she was finally enlightened. So it turned out that the beast kings had been crowding together to watch the battle rowdily. They squeezed with their shoulders and talks and gritted their teeth at each other trying to get the best view. So when Jun Moxie received the signal from Jun Mo Xie, he suddenly thought of a wonderful plan. Hey! Of course it's uncomfortable to all squeeze together. Why do you have to squeeze? There are 3 more vacant sides of the battlefield that allow for a good view. So go and find another spot. But be careful. Don't disturb the battle, else your good show will be gone. It was such a simple suggestion that spread out the beast kings in silence. As they wanted to watch the battle with the best view, all of them chose the spot that allowed themselves to see best. Naturally, when it was time for them to advance, they were already in the best position they could be. Mei Shuiyan really admired Jun Moxie after knowing this. No wonder he was the blood general. With just one simple sentence, he was able to automatically position the countless Xian beasts and leave the 5 venerables in such an awkward situation. Very few could match his quick wit. The situation on the battleground was changing subtly. It was intensifying. The crazy attacks from the Xian beasts were not the main source of pressure for the 5 venerables. It was another man. He didn't participate in battle at all. All he did was yell continuously. He was like a very annoying fly. The venerables wanted to kill him and grind him into meat paste before resurrecting him so that they could repeat the process thousands of times. The only one who was worthy of the honorable description was obviously Jun Mo Xie. He watched and pointed his fingers as he commented enthusiastically. What he said was torturing the venerable's patience. Dang it! Big bear! You dummy! Stop hitting Duju's shoulder. Hit his crotch with your fat bear palms. Isn't he called Duju? Let's take away his father's day one. Yes. Hit his talks just like how you would hit your own son. Destroy his asshole. Humiliate him even if you can't kill him. Nice punch. Careless rock. Hit that hypocrite Hua Feng Wen's eyes. Right. Beat him until he looks like a panda, dang. Aim and hit. You stupid lion. Isn't it uncomfortable hitting his face? The skin on his face is so thick. Aren't you afraid that you might get killed by the recoil? You don't know, maybe he has practiced the secret technique, gold face iron skin. Long crane. You have to change your technique. It's the venerable of the edge of the world you're facing. He can escape any time too. How is it, Chu Wuqing? Are you satisfied with the one-on-one battles? You just wait. We have so many beasts queuing to face you alone. I'm sure you will be satisfied. Hey, don't stare at me, you dummy. Pay attention to defense. Are you trying to show off your big eyes? Stupid old man. Jun Xie looked at your old face. Dang, you look like an eggplant. I'm sure that your wrinkles will crush flies before they land on your face. Dang, you look so ugly like an eggplant that was reboiled and dried again, so disgusting. You are so old and you still want to fight. Of course I'm not against it. But at least make yourself more presentable. Even the Xian beasts feel disgusted by you. Look. Look. Your face is getting red and you're trembling. I know you acknowledge that you are too old for this. You look angry. Yes. I want to anger you to death. I want you have a heart attack. Shameless. Shameless. So shameless. Jun Xie was indeed trembling with a tomato-red face. He hollered in fury as he felt his stomach about to explode. Shameless? Bastard. You're the shameless one. All your ancestors are shameless. Jun Mo Xie leaped up as if he were very angry. But it was followed by some strange laughs. How dare you say that I am shameless? You are old granny drinking watery porridge while leaning on a wall. Ha! You don't understand, do you? Let me teach you properly. Old granny drinking watery porridge while leaning on a wall means sordid, shameless, and obscene 3. How's that? I really infuriated you? No. You should focus on your moves. Pay attention when you're fighting, dang. Didn't I just tell you and you are kicked on your B** talks. Ha ha ha. Needless to say, Jun Mo Xie was also very talented in cursing. He was like a machine gun that simply refused to stop. Mei Shuayan was feeling tired for him, but he seemed to be enjoying it. He just went on and on. It was like many flies were circling around the venerables, frustrating them. The venerables regretted their decision to come. Coupled with the anger from the death of Lu Qiu, the pressure from the beasts, and the threat from Mei Shuayan, the relentless curses from the rascal were truly hurting their brain. Mei Shuayan was feeling slightly embarrassed. Mo Xie. Stop. It sounds so bad. Jun Mo Xie looked at her, puzzled. What? Do you think I am so bored that I have to curse them as entertainment? Do you think we can contain them with this sort of formation? They are all venerables. We have to deprive them of all their brain power to think of a proper strategy. Don't you think what I am doing is very effective? Look at them. They are all so infuriated. Even gods can't think properly with all this cursing. I'm battling, do you know? My stupid little girl. Jun Mo Xie laughed. Your bro. I will teach you how to kill even venerables with my mouth. Jun Mo Xie was losing control with his cursing. His mouth even went for Mei Shuayan. Mei Shuayan was dazed by his unreasonable reasons and was maddened by what he said. She rolled her eyes at him and turned her face away. Even Mei Shuayan, who was mistakenly cursed, felt so angry. Then what about the venerables? When she turned her head around, she realized that what Jun Mo Xie had said apparently made sense. The 5 were all so provoked they couldn't even fend off the attacks, let alone think about strategies to escape. It was especially true for Jun Xie. He was so angered that his moves were becoming disoriented as his beard danced in the air messily. With Jun Mo Xie's provocation, the battle intensified further. Everyone used more strength and the sound of punches became more audible. The skins of the Xian beasts were thicker, so they were not afraid of being beaten, while the venerables had developed a very strong defensive nature. Soon, many on both sides were injured. Earthcracker, don't you know how to take advantage? Look at Jun Xie, that old eggplant who couldn't even respond properly. Didn't you see? Go get him. Hit his crotch and poke his backside. Oh yeah. Does it feel good? Jun Xie? Who asked you to be so arrogant? The collapsing mountain didn't get you, but I will anger you to death today. Beat Jun Xie until he can't recognize his mother. He can never be arrogant again. He will look in the mirror and ask who that is, because no matter from which angle he looks, he will look like a pig. So he will become so worried that he will immediately go home to ask his mother. His mother will say, "Gosh, my son, how did you become a pig?" Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 696. Fight to Death. Seeing that Jun Xie was the most agitated, Jun Mo Xie decided to focus on insulting him. As he finished, everyone around cheered. Brother-in-law. It sounds so poetic. Crazy laughter followed. Jun Mo Xie greeted all of them back with a big grin as he said proudly, "You're flattering me." Jun Xie let out a weird scream. His eyes had turned blue from anger and he could even feel his chest expanding to the brink of explosion. A mouthful of blood rushed to his mouth, but he swallowed it. He knew that Jun Mo Xie was deliberately provoking him, but he couldn't resist. His face turned purple and his moves became more disoriented. Eventually, Earth Cracker's sword pierced into his thigh. Jun Xie roared in agony. There was a sudden burst of xian qi from all over his body and the sword was blasted off. The sword flew and finally flew into the ground behind Jun Wuyi, frightening the general. Fresh blood shot out from the wound on Jun Xie's thigh. The xian beasts who had been encircling him were being blasted away by his fierce xian qi. But they soon restored the encirclement, enduring the pain from the blast to retaliate. With a few deep but loud noises, Earth Cracker successfully landed a few punches on Jun Xie. A transformed lion behind him took the chance to stomp on Jun Xie's B***tox. Jun Xie bellowed in fury as he staggered around, but couldn't keep up as blows continued to land on him. The poor merciful venerable had been pampered for more than 200 years. All he would hear each day was flattery. Who dared to curse at him? No one even dared to stare at him. But he received ample insults today. He got back all the insults he had missed in 200 years. The violent fluctuation in his mood caused his mind to go chaotic. He had fallen into a complete disadvantage. Suddenly, a long whistling sound radiated from the battlefield. It sounded very forceful. The volume of the whistling wasn't high, but it was enough to cover Jun Mo Xie's voice. The whistling was also exceptionally clear, and thus had an calming effect. It took Jun Mo Xie by surprise. He looked up and saw that it was the venerable of the edge of the world, Xiao, who was whistling with a solemn face. The other venerables seemed less stirred up by anger. Under Jun Mo Xie's verbal attack, it had been increasingly difficult for the venerables to remain composed. On the other hand, the xian beasts were enjoying the fight more as they laughed wildly while bashing out at their targets. The situation was becoming increasingly unfavorable for the venerables. The venerable of the edge of the world was aware of Jun Mo Xie's plans, so he whistled to calm everyone down without any more hesitation. Jun Mo Xie was exasperated. On the surface, Jun Mo Xie had been trash-talking to taunt them, but in fact, Jun Mo Xie was using his soul-sedating technique to hypnotize the venerables towards the end. It was at brink of killing Jun Xie with his own anger when Xiao Tianye disrupted. How could Jun Mo Xie not be frustrated? By now, Jun Mo Xie didn't have any other way to gain back the advantage. The venerables were now awakened and very cautiously guarding their souls. The same trick wouldn't work again. Jun Mo Xie was indignant. Dang! Did someone from your family die? What's with that noise? Jun Mo Xie. There's no need to hide anymore. What you've done is countered by my whistling. If you try to continue, you will only turn yourself into a laughing stock. Xiao Tianya's cold voice sounded like he was hardly affected by the encirclement. Du Ju, Zhen Xi Bei, Chu Wu Qing, Hua Feng Wen, join forces to break out of the encirclement from the north. I'll clear the way for you. Xiao Tianya shouted, trembling the ground. Mei Shuayan frowned before she looked surprised. Xiao Tianya, you hid well. You've reached the third tier, but you're still hiding among the second tiers for so many years. Xiao Tianya responded coldly, Venerable Mei, you're not the only one in the world who can make a breakthrough. The wandering venerable and the venerable of life and death will soon come. By then, you, Venerable Mei, will be more concerned with your own safety. Let's go. With a howl, Xiao Tianya extended his arms. He shook his shoulder and with a boom, a strong blast of Xian Qi that resembled a nuclear explosion radiated from his body. Long Crane and the others who were circling him was pushed back by an irresistible force. Xiao Tianya was like a shooting star and an unstoppable ship as he maneuvered through the crowd of Xian beasts to head north. Xiao Tianya's cultivation was very high now. He was willing to be stuck here because he wanted to ambush the opponent. His ultimate plan was to launch a surprise attack on Mei Shuayan. So he didn't intend to leave in the first place. However, he had to change his mind and expose his true cultivation. The reason was that under Jun Wuyi's command, the Xian beasts' formation had become impregnable. If they dragged on, they would be dying here. They had sustained some casualty and fatality. If more were to die, it would be very disadvantageous to them. So he immediately decided to break out by force. The strength of a third-tier venerable had to be acknowledged. The Xian beasts around him could only back off from the immense pressure he gave, so he was able to forcefully create a path among the beasts. The Snake King came by to stop him, but she was blasted back by his palm force. Simultaneously, the other four venerables yelled in unison as they brandished their weapons and behind Xiao Tianya. Jun Wuyi's countenance was not pleasant. He waved the flag and pointed forward. They were going to stop the venerables even if it meant some sacrifices. It was the most destructive coordinated attack Jun Wuyi had formulated, and the only one that might bring fatalities to themselves. But allowing the five venerables roam free would have very dire consequences. So he had to make the decision. Mei Shuayan shouted, "Stop right there." Her slender body immediately disappeared, only to reappear before Xiao Tianya. White vapor could be seen drifting off her hand and cyan-colored flames due to friction with air was visible on the edge of her palms, making her delicate hands look like a blooming lotus. Xiao Tianya's hair and beard stood up as he bellowed and faced Mei Shuayan's attack head-on with fists that were like the heads of dragons. If he couldn't defeat Mei Shuayan, there was no way they could escape. So Xiao Tianya used his full force in his blows. With a loud boom, fists and palms met. A stream of air burst out from the side. The shock waves tumbled all the beasts beside them. Mei Shuayan hummed deeply as she pulled back. Her face seemed to pale in an unhealthy way before it suddenly turned red. On the other hand, Xiao Tianya didn't budge, but it didn't conceal the surprise on his face. He didn't want to give Mei Shuayan a chance to recover, so he continued to pursue by sending more punches. On the surface, it seemed like that Mei Shuayan was disadvantaged. In reality, both of them didn't enter the third tier for long, so their cultivation was still similar. In fact, Mei Shuayan might have a slight advantage as she was naturally more fit as a Xian beast. As they had collided, Mei Shuayan felt that she could win, so she pulled back to decrease the impact force. But Xiao Tianya wanted to break out, so he received the full force. He looked advantageous, but his internal organs had sustained injury. But he had to do it to create a chance to defeat Mei Shuayan. He supposed that Mei Shuayan would be the main force during the Battle of the Blizzard Silver City, so she wouldn't take the risk of sustaining any injury. This was Mei Shuayan's biggest weakness, and naturally Xiao Tianya's best opportunity. The four other venerables behind Xiao Tianya were able to knock down 6 Xian beasts. The full strength of a venerable was too much even for the tougher Xian beasts. But the venerables didn't have an easy win. Both Du Ju and Jun Xie had internal injuries as well as blood stains around their mouth. Chu Wuqing was pale as there was a large wound on his shoulder. The 5 venerables didn't expect that even escaping would be so difficult. They had never faced such a dire situation before. With another boom, Mei Shuayan stepped back more. Suddenly, a blinding sword flash lit up. It was Hua Fengwen flying over with his sword pointing right at Mei Shuayan after Xiao Tianya's blow. Don't forcefully contain them. Let them go, Jun Mo Xie suddenly said. Mei Shuayan dodged. Hua Fengwen had no more obstacles before him as he shot out of the encirclement with no more resistance like a meteor. Immediately after him, the other venerables followed out. There was finally an exit in Jun Wuyi's unbreakable encirclement. The Beast Kings hollered and charged at the venerables. Just as the venerables had broke free, a giant crater appeared suddenly between Xiao Tianya and Chu Wuqing. It had an area of more than 10 square meters and a depth of 9 meters. All of a sudden, such a big crater. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 697. Trap and Kill. Power of Earth. Jun Mo Xie's power of the 5 elements was finally utilized in this crucial moment. Usually, even if a crater 10 times bigger was to appear, they would be able to jump past without even blinking. But now, they were too focused on escaping. The fact that Xiao Tianya passed through without any problem also played a role in giving them a false sense of security that there was nothing wrong with the ground before them. So when they stepped over, the earth beneath crumbled unexpectedly, and they fell for it. Xiao Tianya in front of them suddenly stopped as he roared and untied his belt with his right hand. He threw one end out and successfully tied Chu Wuqing's body. With a pull, Chu Wuqing's body drifted out of the crater. However, a large team of Xian beasts immediately filled the space between them and the crater. Before Du Ju and Jun Xie even reached the floor, they had already blasted their qi downwards and raised themselves up. But they went head straight into numerous roaring beasts that pounced down at them, and there was nowhere to dodge. The two were clear that if they were pressed back into the crater, they would have no way of surviving, especially with Mei Shuayan up there still waiting for them. So it was their only chance to escape the crater. As the heartless venerable, Du Ju immediately said the most suiting thing. You're already injured. Lift me up. I will avenge you. He quickly made the most heartless decision of securing the person that had more power left to fight because there was obviously no hope for both of them to escape together. Jun Xie was the most severely injured among the 5 venerables. He might not even escape if he made his way out of the crater. Jun Xie laughed tragically. Fine. He was also a decisive person. He used all his remaining strength to give Du Ju a push from below. Du Ju's body immediately shot up at twice the speed. On the other hand, Jun Xiaibei's body began to fall back down as the reactive force. He shouted with all his might, "Kill Jun Mo Xie for me." Just as he finished, countless Xian beasts pounced upon him and smashed him right back to the bottom of the crater. Jun Xiaibei was very clear of his own situation, so he decided to agree and assist Du Ju. If they were to argue about who should live, then neither of them would be able to. As a venerable who had lived for hundreds of years, he no longer treasured his life as much. So he easily accepted Du Ju's heartless but very rational proposal. The two of them, one from the elusive world of immortals and the other supreme golden city, had so many conflicts their entire life. But in this final moment, they decided to cooperate. If he were a commoner, he would have been too afraid to think by now. But Jun Xiaibei wasn't. He was indeed worthy to be called a venerable. Du Ju screamed and shot up like a missile with the aid from Jun Xiaibei. He simply drilled through the body of the Beast King that was right above his head. The internal organs of the Beast King decorated his body. "I'll avenge you," Du Ju yelled. His upward momentum hardly depreciated and continued up like a flash of lightning. Chu Wuqing and Xiao Tianye were right in front of him. He would soon be safe. "You're going to stay, Du Ju." Mei Shuayan shouted and suddenly appeared above Du Ju with her palm chopping right down. Du Ju had no way to evade, the palm hit him with a bang and he uncontrollably sprayed out blood from his mouth. But he turned the impact force around, only to accelerate himself further to facilitate the escaping effort. "Watch out! Behind you!" Xiao Tianye turned around and blasted at two Xian beasts that were pouncing upon Du Ju from behind. Du Ju was shocked. He immediately turned around. With a tearing sound and a cold sensation, a sword pierced through his shoulder. As Du Ju was still moving forward, the sword was naturally pulled out of his body. Du Ju spat out more blood as he yelled madly. Behind him was Jun Mo Xie with his sword, who had suddenly appeared from thin air. He looked disappointed. He suddenly vanished again. Jun Mo Xie used the yin-yang escape art, coupled with a fatal killing technique. It would have instantly killed Du Ju, but he survived with Xiao Tianye's reminder. The Xian Qi didn't even manage to explode inside Du Ju's body due to his speed. Nevertheless, it wasn't going to be easy for Du Ju. It had broken Du Ju's shoulder blade. Xiao Tianye was embedded in bright white light as steam drifted away from his head. He had driven his Xian Qi to the max. The normal Xian beasts could no longer even go near him. He extended his hand to hold Du Ju. Xiao Tianye could tell that if he didn't help, Du Ju might not make it. A shadowy figure appeared with a hardly detectable sword flash. Xiao Tianye was crossed. "How dare you, little rascal!" He gave a full blast. But the figure was long gone, leaving behind only a white palm that seemed to connect to nothing and hit on Du Ju's back really hard. It was Jun Mo Xie again. Twice. He had badly injured Du Ju. Du Ju yelped in agony as blood flowed out from every single opening on his face. He could no longer hold on as his body fell down like a kite that suddenly could not capture any wind. Xiao Tianye reached him just in time to grab him. He carried him and shouted in indignation, "Let's go." They continued escaping with all their might. "Where's Jun Xiaibei?" Chu Wuqing asked hurriedly. "He's dead, saving me." Du Ju was in Xiao Tianye's arms, very weak. A drop of tears rolled down his face before he finally fainted. He was close to death as well. Chu Wuqing roared and wanted to turn back to fight, But Xiao Tianya held on to him. At this very moment, a black object came flying over. It was Lu Qiu's head. Big Bear had kicked the head on the stiffening body of Lu Qiu very hard, tearing the head off the body and sending it all the way over like a meteor. Feck. He had cursed. Chu Wuqing screamed in grief as he took the head and disappeared into the snow. As they disappeared, it could be seen that Xiao Tianya, too, had spat out some blood. The injury from his collision with Mei Shuayan finally came to haunt him. The battle had created a very big loss for the three holy lands. The group of eagle tried to chase after them. Jun Wuyi waved his flag, and Mei Shuayan immediately ordered them back. Don't chase anymore. They might have men ready to ambush. Jun Wuyi sighed and said, "What a pity. 4 of them managed to leave. I'm afraid we won't get another opportunity like this." 6 beast kings who were quite badly injured climbed out of the crate. Jun Xie Bei was finished. When he was about to die, he initiated an explosion with the remaining Xian Qi in his body, killing 2 beast kings with him. The other beast kings were also badly injured, but their recovery was hopeful with Jun Mo Xie's magical pills. "We have already done a good job. We killed 2, severely injured 1 and hurt 2 other. It's not realistic to get them all." Mei Shuayan looked at the beast kings that were killed in grief. What a pity for them. They just transformed and haven't had time to enjoy the world yet. "Boss, don't be too sad." Big Bear and Long Crane tried to console her, but they looked down as well. "We haven't reached the Silver City yet, and there are casualties. I wonder what will happen when we eventually face the main army of the 3 holy lands." Mei Shuayan looked into the distance at the cloud-covered summit of the snowy mountain. Everyone remained silent. The wind was especially cold. The night was particularly solemn. Mei Shuayan walked out from her tent to look up at the sky. Jun Mo Xie walked over, making some small noises. He didn't say anything and only sat down beside her. A long while passed. "Shuayan, what are you thinking about?" Jun Mo Xie finally asked softly. "You look very concerned." "I'm thinking about the battle 2 days later." Mei Shuayan was still looking at the sky. "We, TNFA, now have an unprecedented army that's stronger than ever. And it's the first time we send out our army not for the war for seizing the heavens. I'm not sure how many of us will survive in the end." "I'm thinking about it too. But what I'm thinking about is different." Jun Mo Xie smiled cruelly. "I'm thinking about how many experts from the 3 holy lands will be able to survive this time. And how many of those top experts like Jun Xie Bei and Lu Qiu will be buried in the snow forever." Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 698. It must be done. "You don't understand." Mei Shuayan shook her head powerlessly. "The 3 holy lands never send out their saints even if the situation is very dangerous. They will be mobilized only when the foundation of the 3 holy lands is in danger, because they are also a part of the foundation. They sent 6 venerables this time just to probe at us. Clearly, the 3 holy lands are desperate and determined to kill us. Xiao Tianya even said that the wandering venerable and the venerable of life and death are reaching us soon. I don't think it's a bluff. The 2 of them became 3rd-tier venerables 200 years ago. I bet they have reached the 4th tier now. If so, I have no hope against them. Stop looking so nonchalant. You have no idea what a 4th-tier venerable is like." Mei Shuayan sighed and looked down into Jun Mo Xie's eyes. It means that their bodies have been refined by lightning and thunder. Their strength is beyond your imagination. If they are deliberately acting against us, we have close to no chance. You are now at the basic rank of a third-tier venerable? Jun Mo Xie asked after a pause. Yes. And I'm not confident in facing them, not even one of them. There's no one on our side who can match their power. The only way we can deal with them is to damage them by the self-destruction of more than 4 Xian beasts. Mei Shuiyan's eyes flashed. She then sighed. Unless I have another breakthrough, we will have to face the unthinkable outcome of the battle. But it's close to impossible given that I've just reached the third tier recently. Breakthrough? Jun Mo Xie looked like he was considering about something. You've just had a breakthrough. I suppose the qi in your meridians is scarce. Mei Shuiyan rolled her eyes at him. Isn't it common sense? No matter humans or Xian beasts, the Xian qi in our meridians will drop back to a very basic and low level. And that's exactly what the rankings are for. Only when Xian qi becomes abundant in the meridians will we be at the top rank and ready for another breakthrough. Why are you even asking this? Don't you know? I'm afraid that we will be very disadvantaged during the battle. But we can't retreat. Jun Mo Xie laughed bitterly and took in a deep breath as his eyes showed his brutality. We have announced to the world and caused so much commotion on our way here. If we lose, we will also become a joke or might even have to face demise. Ha! Is the Blizzard Silver City really forcing us into such a difficult situation? His pupils seemed to be darkening. The interference of the 3 holy lands is really to an extent that I haven't expected. Mei Shuiyan softly agreed. Yes. I thought they would only send a venerable or 2 at best. That would have been a very intolerable act. Who would have known that they would disobey the rule from their ancestors, which says that the 3 holy lands and 1 ferocious land should not fight against each other. To this extent, Jun Mo Xie said softly, although Xiao Tianya has reached the 3rd tier, I'm sure he is not any stronger than you. With his injury, he will become weaker. Du Ju is seriously injured, so I suppose we can neglect him. Hua Fengwen has only minor injuries, so he might be a challenge. As for Chu Wuqing, he's also not in a good condition, so perhaps he is only around the level of Xiao Tianya as well. So for the original 6 venerables, they only have the power of at most 2.5 of them left. So our only problem will be the wandering venerable and the venerable of life and death. Indeed. But the 2 of them might be too strong for us to counter. Mei Shuiyan took a deep breath. We have a strong army. But they have much stronger top experts. Maybe we don't have to be so pessimistic. I've come up with a possible solution. Let's try it out. Jun Mo Xie unexpectedly smiled, looking relaxed with a tint of determination. Follow me, Shuiyan. I will show you a miracle today. He then immediately zoomed off. What do you want to do? Jun Mo Xie was long gone when Mei Shuiyan asked. She could only catch up with him. 2 shadowy figures dashed across snow-covered meadows and valleys. Finally, Jun Mo Xie stopped in a valley with a thick layer of snow beneath. With a soft thud, Mei Shuiyan landed beside him as well. What are we doing? You see, with 3 peaks surrounding us and the bright moon right overhead, this is the spot where spiritual qi is most concentrated. Let me assist you tonight so that you can reach the 4th tier. Jun Mo Xie said it indifferently, but his eyes revealed craziness. Are you joking? It's not the matter of a pill or 2. Air. Mei Shuiyan was scolding Jun Mo Xie laughingly with her eyes wide open when suddenly Jun Mo Xie hugged her and gave her a kiss mouth to mouth. She felt her body collapse and she was pressed into the snow by Jun Mo Xie's well-built figure. Mei Shuiyan sighed. He just wants to take advantage of me. There's so many uncertainties for the coming battle. Maybe I should just let him be presumptuous once. Who knows whether we can survive? But I will do anything to keep him safe. Mei Shuiyan closed her eyes and didn't resist at all. She was prepared to accept the love from him. But suddenly she opened her eyes wide in shock and disbelief. What was coming out from Jun Mo Xie's mouth was the unexpected endless flow of extremely pure heaven-earth spiritual qi. The concentration was so high that it was close to suffocating Mei Shuiyan. It was the most pure type that Mei Shuiyan could only previously dream about. But now it was miracle coming true. She looked at Jun Mo Xie with concern. She was afraid that the process would deplete Jun Mo Xie's power. However, she could clearly feel the warmth and gentleness from Jun Mo Xie's eyes. His message was clear: don't worry. Try to absorb all the spiritual qi by driving your breathing pattern. Mei Shuiyan was finally no longer anxious. She closed her eyes and started to drive her qi. She felt her meridians were like rivers that were close to being dried up, while Jun Mo Xie's heaven-earth spiritual qi was like the ocean. The water was flowing in endlessly. Mei Shuiyan simply laid below Jun Mo Xie's warm and strong body and slowly entered a state of weakened consciousness. The process of delivering the heaven-earth spiritual qi from the Hongjun Pagoda with his body as the medium in order to beef others up was always on Jun Mo Xie's mind. But he never dared to try it. Although it would be safer to input via her wrist veins, it would be much less efficient than a direct delivery. The fact that Mei Shuiyan had a good foundation and could possibly withstand the inflow was also a consideration. He used all his psychic power to knock on the doors of the Hongjun Pagoda the moment he kissed Mei Shuiyan's lips. The Hongjun Pagoda immediately started to spin and expand in a rainbow-colored flare as it radiated within his consciousness. The doors of the Hongjun Pagoda suddenly sprang open. The ceaseless burst of heaven-earth spiritual qi that originated from Jun Mo Xie's mouth coincided with the Hongjun Pagoda's doors. The heaven-earth spiritual qi was literally pumped into Mei Shuiyan's body at 60% of the maximum power of the Hongjun Pagoda. The rate of input was so large that even with Mei Shuiyan's foundations, she might not be able to take it. So Jun Mo Xie carefully controlled the flow all along. He would immediately cut it if he was aware that Mei Shuiyan couldn't bear it anymore. After all, it was the maximum output rate of the Hongjun Pagoda that Jun Mo Xie could control right now. During Jun Mo Xie's daily trainings, the pagoda would only slowly refill the replenishing qi in his meridians. It never delivered so much in such a short period of time. One had to know that with Jun Mo Xie's meridians, he couldn't take such a flow right now. However, Mei Shuiyan was able to accept it all without any signs of discomfort. It was a clear illustration to Jun Mo Xie how strong a venerable really was. Their qi is really so abundant, like the water in the seas. I have underestimated all the experts in this world. I must improve. She must improve. Jun Mo Xie was yelling and praying in his mind. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 699. The Might of the Heaven and Earth. The process was Jun Mo Xie's last resort. If it didn't work, there was little hope against top experts such as the Wandering Venerable and the Venerable of Life and Death. Perhaps the only option left to them would be retreating. And whether the process was going to bear any fruits was also a big mystery to Jun Mo Xie himself. More time had passed. Mei Shuiyan felt that the heaven-earth spiritual qi in her meridians was fluctuating like waves in a stormy sea. She would feel an unbearable freeze the previous moment, immediately followed by a burning sensation. More heaven-earth spiritual chi was flooding into her body to flow in her meridians. However, after they had finally flowed for a full cycle and transformed into her own Xian Q, which took a lot more effort to produce, she was able to control them with ease. Even the transformation was sped up. What Mei Shuayan had to do right now was in fact very simple. She just had to drive the flow of the qi in her body faster. She didn't have to deliberately absorb it. She didn't have to feel for it. She didn't have to think about it. She didn't even have to worry. The reason was that Jun Mo Xie was doing all of this for her. He was in control. The Xian Qi in her meridians evolved from a drying stream to a fast-flowing river and finally to a river with huge volumes of water gushing through. It all happened so fast. It would usually take up to 100 years of accumulation in order to achieve this evolution. However, it all happened so quickly tonight, challenging Mei Shuayan's intuition. How could the improvement of a venerable be so rapid? Basic rank, intermediate rank, top rank. A speed that Mei Shuayan hadn't even dreamt of before. Within only 2 hours, Mei Shuayan's meridians were saturated with all the qi and slightly swelling. The flow still didn't stop. Now she was like a small reservoir with the whole oceans and its source. And suddenly, the sea water was let in, overflowing the small reservoir. Suddenly, a peculiar whirlwind began blowing overhead, carrying snowflakes with it up into the air. Abruptly, it stopped, only to welcome an even stronger gust of wind from north, gathering clouds to cover the brilliant moon and starry night. The clouds were like soldiers gathering upon hearing a command. Layers of different kinds of cloud entangled with each other, weaving themselves into a dark-colored blanket, blocking off any sources of light, rendering it hopeless to see. The speed of cloud formation was rare for even summer, let alone under such cold weather. The wind from north only intensified its whistling and rampage. The mountain forest trembled under the wrath of the heavens as they moaned, while countless thick tree branches succumbed to the blade-like airflow and was blown away in a blink of an eye. More cloud layers stacked together like a gigantic darkening cotton wool slowly drifting down from the skies. However, it was definitely not soft and fluffy as it exerted a suffocating pressure to the ground. Occasionally, faint bursts of light were visible. They must have been internal lightning strikes that getting reading to escape from the walls of clouds to reach the soil. It was the wrath of thunder. It was the might of heaven and earth. The rumbling thunder sounded like it couldn't decide whether it had originated from the heavens or all around. The pressure was capable of driving weaker beings mad. The most strange thought was that all of this occurred in the northern snowy mountains where this sort of scene had not visited for tens of thousands of years. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, 3 teams of men were approaching the snowy mountains with breakneck speed. They suddenly stopped when the sky darkened from the clouds and the pressure could be felt. The 3 leading middle-aged men in the front pulled a face. Might of the heaven and earth. The wrath of thunder and wind. Who's having a breakthrough right now? How strong must he be to cause such a reaction from the heavens? We didn't expect someone so powerful in the north. A bearded man in white raised his head in awe to watch the snake-like lightning flashes. Right. Only during breakthroughs of reaching 4th tier of venerable or higher would initiate the thunder strikes. Xiao Yao. Judging from the fact that he can trigger such a thunderstorm in the freezing northern snowy mountains, I'm afraid the man who's breaking through is very strong. Another man in linen showed some shame at feeling inferior. Another leader looked very serious as he watched the dark clouds. I thought our victory would be secured with our mobilization, but who would expect to find such an expert here? If he's our enemy. I'm afraid we will be getting ourselves into a hot mess this time. Let's hope that there isn't such ifs. The first man who spoke sounded uncertain and slightly afraid. He paused before saying, "Let's head over and see. Don't disturb the person. We are trying to be as friendly as possible." The other two agreed, and the three groups of men advanced like arrows pointing toward the direction of the thunderstorm. In Blizzard's Silver City, everyone was stunned, looking at the sky with fear. They had no idea what was happening. Before this, they would laugh at anyone who said there could be lightning and thunder here. However, the impossible was playing out right before their eyes right now. Many pinched themselves to check if they were dreaming. Isn't it a dream? Coincidentally, a group of men arrived at Blizzard's Silver City. The guards of the city were knocked out. A few gloomy-looking men drifted over and stood at the central square right in front of the town hall. "Where's the master of the Blizzard Silver City? The three Holy Lands are here to assist. Why aren't there anyone welcoming us?" It was Xiao Tianya. Upon hearing this, Han Zhanmeng and Xiao Xingyun immediately rushed out with others to welcome them. Han Zhanmeng felt uneasy while Xiao Xingyun was so excited. He was especially pleased when he saw that there were members of older generations of the Xiao family among the men from the Supreme Golden City. Xiao Tianya snorted coldly as he looked bewildered by the thunder and lightning. He directly ordered, "Get us rooms to rest." It was only until now that Xiao Xingyun discovered that the leading top experts of the group had all been injured. "Sir, what happened?" Xiao Xingyun asked cautiously. "What happened? Isn't it all for your stupid problems?" Xiao Tianya snorted and looked at Xiao Tianya with hatred. "We had a battle with the Jun family just now. The merciful venerable and the pervert venerable died." "Xiao Xingyun, it's all your family's fault. Why are you still asking?" "What?" Xiao Xingyun was petrified. "How is that possible? Jun family is so powerful now? They sent at least 2,000 level 9 Xian beasts. What do you think?" Hua Fengwen said coldly. Upon hearing such a shocking news, Xiao Xingyun felt like he was shocked by the lightning not far away. Hua Fengwen didn't want to talk to him anymore. He peered up at the sky. "Brother Tianya, this should be the breakthrough of a top expert, shouldn't it?" Xiao Tianya looked gloomy. "Yes. Or nothing could explain such a thunderstorm in the snowy mountains." Hua Fengwen could not veil his envy as he looked at the thunder and lightning. "Do you think it's Venerable Mei?" Chu Wuqing asked. "Definitely not. Her cultivation is only on par with mine. She's only a basic rank 3rd tier. She needs at least 300 more years of training before she can break through." Xiao Tianya snorted. "If she can break through, I'd have long been a saint." Everyone laughed slightly. All of them were well-informed individuals and were able to discern what Xiao Tianya said with the most accurate analysis. So they carried on with finding a room for Du Ju to rest in. After that, they gathered back in the square to look at the might of the heaven and earth. Each of them with different things on their mind. With an exceptionally bright flash, Mei Shuayan was finally afraid. She began struggling. She knew that she was about to break through and would be faced with the might of the heaven and earth and the wrath of thunder and lightning. She might be able to withstand it, but Jun Mo Xie definitely couldn't. She couldn't allow anything to hurt her Mo Xie. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 700. Breakthrough. Mei Shuayan's lithe body struggled intensely, and her beautiful large eyes widened with anxiousness and pleading. She couldn't help but tears formed in her eyes as she looked at Jun Mo Xie's face, which was only inches away from her. Please hurry up and get away from me. Please release me from your embrace. Only when you are safe will I have the courage to endure and pass this trial. I beg of you, hurry up and leave me. Although she did not voice her words out loud, Jun Mo Xie could clearly hear the cry in her heart. However, Jun Mo Xie did not move and instead used more strength to control Mei Shuiyan's body. He was practically exhausting all of his energy. For the sake of controlling her, he even retracted his essence qi from the most vulnerable parts of his body and moved them to where Mei Shuiyan was struggling the most. If Mei Shuiyan were to forcefully break out of his grasp, the first thing that would break would be Jun Mo Xie's 4 limbs. This kind of method was desperate to the extreme. If his 4 limbs broke in this place where lightning and thunder gathered, even the tiniest shock would be enough to claim his little life. Thus, Mei Shuiyan did not dare to struggle at all. Her usually calm eyes were filled with panic and despair. She could feel the clouds growing larger and closer, and the lightning flickering in the clouds was becoming more concentrated. At this point, her tears were falling like the rain, and she was near desperation as she looked pleadingly at Jun Mo Xie. Her mouth was gagged, but the hopelessness in her heart was apparent. In that moment, Mei Shuiyan's heart completely broke. My love, if you're not in this world, what meaning would there be even if I broke through the realms above Saint King? Please, release me. Jun Mo Xie stared intently at her eyes, and the warmth in his eyes became stern. His pupils were ice cold as he looked directly at her. The rigidness of his eyes was clearly warning her, do not move. Try moving and see what happens. Mei Shuiyan finally stopped struggling completely. Her tears flowed like a flood, and her chest heaved inconsolably. She could feel the extremely pure heaven-earth spiritual qi flooding continuously into her veins. And finally, Hong. The bottleneck to the 4th level of the venerable realm had finally been breached. An ocean of heaven-earth spiritual qi flooded into her body like water in a desert. And in this moment, Mei Shuiyan also truly felt the whole new powerful and mysterious realm before her. This was the kind of feeling that countless people in the world had hoped to experience for themselves. It should be a time of happiness and rejoicing, however. Mei Shuiyan did not feel even the slightest bit of joy in her heart. What she felt right now was instead complete despair. Because the entire sky had completely lit up by now, and it seemed as if the heavens and earth had changed color. 2 thin bolts of lightning, the thickness of a finger, streaked across the sky with impeccable speed, striking down with terrible might. Their target was Jun Mo Xie's head. Mei Shuiyan closed her eyes tightly and removed the Xian Qi protection around her body as well. My beloved, since you are not willing to leave, then I shall accompany you. Don't think for a moment that you can make me live on alone in this world if you're gone. That's an impossible matter. Do you know? A strange smile that was impossible to describe slowly crept onto Jun Mo Xie's face in that moment. He felt the Hongjun pagoda in his sea of consciousness move, and a powerful aura suddenly rose up. In an instant, a funnel-shaped vortex of qi that could be seen with the naked eye opened up welcomingly, as if it were receiving something. The young Master Jun was naturally not a rash person, and would usually not do something so risky. But when the anomaly in the sky appeared, he had instantly felt a very distinct intuition that the Hongjun pagoda could block this heavenly might. In fact, it could do so effortlessly. This kind of feeling was extremely abstruse, but it appeared clearly in his heart. It was incredibly mysterious and impossible to describe with words. Jun Mo Xie had always believed in his own intuition, so he did not avoid it at all. Since he had such confidence, why was there a need to let Mei Shuayan risk the trial? Right now, he could clearly determine that this power of lightning was quite likely the heavenly tribulation that was recorded in the Hongjun Pagoda. There should be no mistakes about it. The question is, what level of heavenly tribulation was this? Jun Mo Xie could not clearly determine it. Besides, there weren't sufficient time for him to research it now. The only thing he needed to know was that the Hongjun Pagoda could definitely block it. The lightning arrived above his head in an instant, carrying a powerful force with it. Mei Shuayan could clearly sense that Jun Mo Xie's hair was already standing on its ends. It's here. She finally could not bear it and opened her eyes to look deeply at Jun Mo Xie's face. Could it be that this was the last time she would be looking at him in this life? But in that moment, she only saw a scene that even she did not dare to believe. When the two bolts of lightning struck down on Jun Mo Xie's head, the expected agonized reaction had not appeared. Instead, the lightning bolts had disappeared completely, without a single sound. They disappeared tracelessly and soundlessly, for seemingly no reason at all. The disappearance was so abrupt and so clean that there didn't seem to be a reason to explain it at all. What was going on? Just what was going on? Mei Shuayan nearly forgot that she was supposed to be feeling despair. Her mouth hung wide open as she watched yet another lightning bolt. Another 2 bolts, 3 bolts. Numerous lightning bolts rained down accurately, carrying powerful might and momentum. However, all of them disappeared without a single trace and in the most mysterious way into his head. Such a powerful lightning storm actually did not do even a single bit of damage to Jun Mo Xie. How is this possible? Mei Shuayan opened her round eyes dumbly. She had been shocked to the core by this sight. The thunderous sounds in the sky grew louder and louder, and the lightning struck down with greater frequency and power, growing thicker and thicker. It was as if they wanted to tear the heavens apart. Lightning flashed across the sky unceasingly, lighting up the entire sky. Right under the flashing storm, a pair of lovers sat together, hugging and kissing sweetly as the lightning struck down on them. It was as if the earth-splitting lightning storm around them did not exist at all. Far away, the 3 groups of people that were rushing toward the area all stopped on the spot. Only the 3 people in the lead flew over to take a look. The sight alone caused their faces to be contort with shock. Such a powerful lightning tribulation was something that even they had never seen before. Among the 3, 2 of them had already reached the 4th level of the Venerable Realm. But when they broke through, although it was also accompanied by lightning tribulation, the scale of that was many times smaller than this one. In fact, they could not even be mentioned together in the same breath. This lightning storm had already persisted for close to 2 hours. However, it did not show any signs of waning at all. In fact, it seemed to be growing fiercer still. Could this be the lightning tribulation attracted by a Saint Realm expert breaking through? These 3 venerables and the forces they led were exactly the reinforcements Xiao Tianye and the rest were urgently waiting for. The wandering venerable Mo Xiao Yao, the venerable of life and death Wei Kong Kun, and the savage venerable Jia Qing Yun. At this moment, the 3 had stealthily sneaked into the area after leaving a majority of their forces to wait 10 li away. When they saw the heaven-encompassing stretch of storm clouds in the sky, all of them could not help but draw a breath of cold air with shock. This was especially the case for the 2 who had experienced the might of the lightning tribulation before. Their scalps had become completely numb, and their backs turned as cold as ice. Looking at this situation, the person in the middle of this should most likely be able to overcome it. We'll go over together in a moment and see if we can make our acquaintance with this person. At the very least, we can't let such a powerful person stand in opposition of our three holy lands. If it's a recluse expert, that would be the best. Mo Xiao Yao's eyes were filled with worry, but also a trace of excitement. The other two nodded, their faces similarly heavy. Mo Xiao Yao furrowed his brows lightly and continued. Later on, we must take extra caution to watch the tone of our speech. We experts of the three holy lands have grown too used to our arrogance. So if any of our words end up infuriating that person, it wouldn't be good. After all, there's no sense in creating a powerful enemy for ourselves out of nowhere. The other two laughed and raised their chins. All of yous rose up to our current level step by step from the bottom. If we hadn't gone through the stage of toadying up to the powerful, would we have been able to walk to our current level? Relax. There definitely won't be any misunderstandings. Mo Xiao Yao could not help but chuckle a little as well. In any case, if that person does not accept our goodwill and insists on opposing us, we must not be merciful either. The moment I give the word, all of us will attack together. We'll make use of the fact that this person is at his weakest after just breaking through and eliminate the threat. Remember, if that scenario truly comes into play, we must go all out with the first strike. We cannot be lenient no matter what. Take out all your trump cards right from the start. Jia Qingyun and Wei Kongkun nodded slowly as their expressions grew grim. In that case, we shall prepare for both scenarios. No matter how it turns out, we'll handle the outcome cleanly. Mo Xiao Yao was the elusive world of Immortals Palace Lord's blood sibling. They were born of the same mother. Mo Wu Dao was in charge of leading the elusive world of Immortals, and his younger brother became its guardian. With Mo Xiao Yao's cultivation, he could have originally been a joint leader. But in order to please the masses, Mo Wu Dao demoted him by a rank, making a fourth-level venerable do the work of a protector. But Mo Xiao Yao never complained even once and continued to aid his brother with all his effort. His intelligence was already far above his peers, and he was also extremely meticulous in his work. One could say that apart from the venerables, everything else in the elusive world of immortals was managed by him, to a point of perfect order. This time, the three groups had, whether consciously or subconsciously, all acknowledged his position as the leader. His plan at this time was also the best. All of a sudden, the thunderous rumblings stopped, and in practically an instant, the dark clouds in the sky dissipated. If one raised their eyes, it would be a clear and cloudless sky above them for as far as they could see. Countless stars twinkled dazzlingly, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. This terrifying heavenly wrath had finally passed. The ordeal was shocking, but there was no hurt. Jun Mo Xie finally stumbled backward, away from Mei Shuiyan's body. It wasn't that he didn't want to take things one step further, but that this was currently Mei Shuiyan's most critical moment. All her comprehensions and experiences of the new realm needed to be properly digested. Her cultivation and her new abilities needed to be solidified. Now was not the time for him to take liberties with her. Mei Shuiyan was already in a state of deep meditation. Jun Mo Xie looked at Mei Shuiyan, and his expression grew warm. He carried her up gingerly, and the two disappeared into the snow like two drops of water merging into the ocean. This story will be continued to chapter 701. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.